All right, you electronic pack rats, listen up. You might know that one of my hobbies is yard sales. Now, I don't really buy things at yard sales. I will buy a baseball cap when I need one. If they have CDs of a movie I hadn't seen or I like for $1, I'll buy that. But for the most part, I have several areas that I walk every day in, and I pick a different neighborhood. And we have a neighborhood like the Willows, the Oaks, the Highlands, something Mill Creek area. So I can go out and walk a different neighborhood. And I know a lot of the people. So when there's a yard sale, I'll stop, and if the person's in a good mood and they're not real busy, I'll hang out with them. And there's a lot to learn about people and situations and the area you live in by meeting new people. Now, I told you once before, there was this guy, and I just found out from the last yard sale that he works in a hardware store. And over the years, he's collected a metal lathe, a wood lathe, table saw, bandsaw, planer, box after box of tools. The entire garage is packed. So that would be last spring, I stopped to talk to him for a little while. And he just said that I have too much stuff. He says, over the years, I've collected all these tools. I never used them. I have no desire to use them. Every time I need to do something in the garage, I have to bring everything outside onto the driveway. And just recently I realized that's why all his tools are rusted. Everything's rusted really bad. What he does is he must need to do something in the garage. And he puts the tools outside, or the tool boxes, and then they get rained on. And instead of having a tarp on them or drying them off, he just puts them back into the garage. So in the spring, I met him, and he's selling stuff. And he's just sitting. He's glued in a chair. If somebody comes up to him, he doesn't get up. And they'll ask him, how much do you want for the metal lathe? And he'll give them this, the full retail price, even though you can see it's all rusted. So I stood there and I'm like, I have all the tools I need. I have a Harbor Freight around the corner. If I just walk over there and get a tool if I need it at a decent price. I use it once, and then it's sort of a disposable. I don't collect tools like I used to. So this time I went over to the yard sale. It's now the fall, and that guy's there, and I come up on him, and I guess he sort of remembered me, and he was in a bad mood. I said, how do you make on it? He says, I still have too much stuff. Now, I looked into the garage, and the table saw is gone, the bandsaw is gone, the planer is gone, the metal and wood lathe are gone, but there's tractors in there. There's these little tractors, for if you have a small farm. He's got two of those that are all rusted up. They're sitting in there, and he's still glued to the chair. So I went over to the guy next door to him, I've never seen before, and I hung out with him. And he's up and down. He's being more friendly, but he's really busy. So that was Friday. So I did the rest of my walk, and Saturday I went back over there, and he wasn't as busy. And I was looking at his stuff, and he told me, he says, all this stuff on this side was his father's. A lot of it is car-related hubcaps, little escutcheons, I think they would call it. And he just said he doesn't want them. He's the same age as me. He knows he's never going to use them, and he's trying to sell them. And on the other side, he's got 8-track tapes, some records, some cassettes, and he's telling me, I'm trying to get rid of some of this stuff. And we got talking, and he's a pretty sharp guy. I mentioned, he said to me he doesn't watch television, he watches YouTube. And I said, yeah, I have a channel on YouTube. And I mentioned Taco Stacks. And at first he didn't remember. He watches this other guy, and it's similar to Taco. I said, they go into the garbage, and they pick something out, and the next day they flea market it. And then he just, wait, I think I did watch Taco Stacks. I said, yeah. He's got a dog named Salsa. He goes, yeah, I did watch that guy. I said, all right. I said, that's the guy I watch. And at the time, why I said that was this guy was building these birdhouses that are on a stand, and they're decorative. And he just sold the last two. And the person said, can you make some more? And he says, no, he's not going out anymore. But I can tell this guy, he stays busy. He's still working. He's my age, but he still goes to work. He said he really didn't want to take full retirement. Well, anyway, but I got talking about him. He's a lot like me in his thought process. You know, if you're not going to use it, get rid of it. And other people, you know, the guy just up next door to him, you know, had all this stuff. He never used it. He let it rust out. And then anyway, two different kinds of people. And this is what I look for at a yard sale. The stories they tell you about the area. And I mentioned to him about, yeah, we have this sandwich shop. I'm like, he knew it was Bruno's. He knew the guy's only open 3 hours. And the reason I started, I says, yeah, the people here don't realize that a person will open up a sandwich shop for just 3 hours, make his money and close. Why stay open the whole day when you're only going to get a few more customers? You know, lunch is where you make your money with a sandwich shop. You may sell some for dinner. It's possible. People might come in for, if you sell sliced meat, the markup isn't that good on that. Where if you sell it as a sandwich, you make money. Anyway, this place called Bruno, there's 2 of them. And I said, I went over there on a Saturday. I was all excited. I was going to get a Bruno sandwich. And after the yard sale, I went over there and realized he's not open on Saturday. And then he's only open 3 hours. And this guy said, yeah, I got lucky several times during work. He shot over there. He says, the sandwich is really good. It's on he gets his rolls from Philly. That's where someone told me if you really want a real roll for a sandwich, go to that place. See, we have Walmart and other places that sell you this. This roll is not a hard roll. It's a bread roll. It's really weird. It's junk. But anyway, I was talking to him, and we both know all about Bruno's, and I've never eaten there yet. I'm working on it. So I'm going up this other side, and I go past. You know, I go for a walk in these different areas, and I see this woman and guy unloading a trailer of stuff on the lawn. So I go around another lap. I come back and I hung out with them. And the woman's going through the stuff and she's throwing the stuff in a box. I said, well, they're real junk. I said, you put it in a free box. She says, no. She says, this is garbage. I go, what's going on? She says, well, her father had a storage unit and he had the stuff in there for years and he never took it out. He kept paying on the storage. Now the stuff that was in the storage unit isn't worth basically anything. So they had this stuff, and this is only one load from the storage unit. She says it's going to take 4 loads to get rid of it all. And they want to see how well it sells. If it doesn't sell, it's all going to Goodwill, if they'll take it. So anyway, I went around another lap. I stopped. How you making out? They sold a couple things, because some old boxes, old wooden boxes, old cigar boxes, weird things. Crafters will buy it, and you'll get next to nothing for it. So that's when they were. I stopped back just when the yard sales start to die at 11 o'clock. They start at 7, 11 o'clock, just towards noon, is when the people basically start giving the stuff away. So there are latecomers, but they said this was not worth it, and now they got to pick all this stuff off the lawn, and they have to try to pack it back in the trailer. And they said to really, you know, her parents left them, or her father left them all this crap. And I said, well, some of the stuff might be worth something to somebody, but in order to find that person, that's the hard part. And then in this other yard sale, the person had a telescope out there on the lawn. And I said, you know, this area is really weird. As far as whenever there's going to be a meteor shower, it clouds up. So the one woman walking by, she's on the sidewalk. She hears me talking. She comes over. She says, did you see the Aurora Borealis? I said, no, I didn't see it, because if I would have gone out there, it would have been covered with fog, smoke, or just rain clouds. So she says, well, the only reason she saw it, she was coming back late into Lancaster City. And she said, as she's coming down this one hill, there it was. And it was really good. You have to have a place without lights. But the Aurora Borealis from Alaska, or the Northern Lights, were all the way down here. And I knew they were down here, but my area is there's too many lights. Mine's a little neighborhood that's built in a cornfield, but the amount of lighting, they have street lights, that you can't see the sky unless you go in the back of the house, and then you can only see one direction. And because the rest of this, when you look the other way, there's so many lights. That's like I said, you got light pollution, they call it. But I enjoy the yard sales. You meet a lot of interesting people. You find out about what something was, or sometimes the person will ask me about something. And I know my area here, that there was a quarry, that the older houses are built with the stone from the quarry that's nearby. And because the Dutch settlers and Amish settlers, they built their houses from the wood that was here. There were mills. There's still mills, shops, and stuff, and some covered bridges here in Lancaster. There's old, and people come here from around the world. They take different tours and that. That's right by my house. I'm 2 blocks from Dutch Wonderland, which is the biggest small kids amusement park. The amusement park is for kids up to like 12 years old, and they did start adding some bigger rides in there. Originally, Dutch Wonderland was a family. I think I can remember that Clark, I think, owned it. Joe Clark. There's Joe Clark, and then the other guy. Well, they were friends. The other guy across the street, Joe Myers, had a place for people, food places. But the two of them started creating the Miracle Mile. Now Clark, he had a hotel at the top of the hill, and every morning people would get up. They liked being in Lancaster, but they said there's really nothing for the children. So he got the idea of opening Dutch Wonderland. Then it got sold. The family sold it to Hershey Park. They kept it for a few years. Now it's owned by the company, maybe privately owned. Well, just after Hershey owned it, then the company that owned Namu, the whale down in Florida, that company owned it for a while. There was people protesting here to free the whale. But anyway, I have Dutch Wonderland. They're adding bigger rides in there. So when the bigger kids come with their younger brothers and sisters, they can do it. They do have a water slide there. And they have a place where you can dig. It's make believe. You dig fossils and stuff like that. There used to be a wax museum over there. That's gone. There was a theater over there. That's gone. But there's this area here called the Miracle Mile, and there's all kinds of outlet stores. And the big mall at the top was Rockville. It had original outlet stores that had sold like China and stuff like that. That's all dying. They're going to put a housing development up there. But we have a Tanger Outlets here. We have a bunch of little malls besides the Tanger Outlet. Tanger Outlet is it's a family-owned mall, and it's in several states, and it's got outlet stores, but mostly they're women's clothing. There are some like Timberland and places like that, but people come from 4 states around here to shop because there's no sales tax here on clothing. Okay, but I just want to tell you, I look at yard sales from a different point of view. Like you said, you hang out with the person when they're not busy, and they'll tell you, oh, that used to be such and such down there, or that's over there. Now, a lot of these people, I've known them for 15 years. So I walk through their neighborhoods, and sometimes they're mowing the lawn, and they're out there waiting for a cab or a relative to pick them up. And I stand and hang out with them. So I sort of know a lot of people. But the one guy that was really cool, I had never met him before. The other guy with the garage full of tools, that was like the second or third time I met him. And he's not a happy camper because the company he's working for is in Chapter 11 or whatever. And he's at that age where I think he's got to keep working. A lot of these people like to spend money, and it's cheap here, but your jobs don't pay as much. And if you didn't watch your savings, or if you don't get enough Social Security, or in most cases, they haven't paid the house off yet. See, it's cheap here. If you got a house that you bought here and you paid it off, it's like and you get 2,000 Social Security a month, you can live pretty good here if your health holds up and all the other stuff. But anyway, I only get a little over 1,000. I own this house, but I don't have a car, and I did what I had to do, but I still have my favorite hobby, electronics and stuff like that. That's what I like to do, and one of the things I do is I go for long walks, and you bump into a kindred spirit. I think that's the word. And there are people that lived a similar life to you, and they have maybe their thing is maybe old cars or old tractors. Out here, you got people. When I first moved here, a lot of the garages had John Deere tractors in them. They don't anymore. I go by and the guy says, "Well, I finally got someone that offered me good money for it. I got rid of it." But they'll buy a tractor and then they restore it. And it's a John Deere. But that age group, which is mine, they're starting to get rid of their old cars. They're realizing it doesn't give them as much joy. They're trying to get rid of these things because their children say, "I don't want it when you die." And that's what they tell you. That's what's the amazing thing. You stand there. My children already told me they don't want it. And I went through that with somebody else. The children didn't want any of their stuff. Now we have a big Goodwill. And when you bring stuff up to the door, up to the side door, they go through it and they tell you, in a lot of cases, we don't want that. We have too much of that. So your parent dies, and you bring all their belongings up to Goodwill. And the Goodwill, we don't have the dumpster space. And the person like, "What do you mean you don't want this?" "We have too much of that." See, there's so many people my age that are dying that have similar stuff that Goodwill occasionally, like in the movie section, the DVDs, they just come in there and they pick them up, put them in a bin, and throw them out. And then they restock it with new ones that are coming. There's certain DVDs nobody wants. And that section, that's the section I see. It fills up with a lot of junk. And every so often I went there and I said to the guy, he goes, "No, every so often we just come in here, we clean it, and we throw them out. And then we have room for new arrivals." And he says, "A lot of this stuff in the back room gets separated and put on websites. And then if a movie like The Godfather, there's a lot of copies of that, that'll make it to the floor. Even though it's a popular movie, it makes it to the floor." I go in there for certain movies, like Office Space. I went there I don't know how many times. I finally bought Office Space, and I'm not kidding you. The next time I went to Goodwill, there was an Office Space. But I just want to tell you, garage sale, when you first get out of the car and you look at the person's stuff, you're going to say, "I had that, I don't want that, I want." But I look at it, I'm out on a walk, and I come up to the person, and we talk about the neighborhood, places to eat, and other things. It's a place where a person, they have no customers at the moment, and you're helping them kill time waiting for the next customer. So it does work out. And then sometimes you'll see an object like I've never seen before. The guy had a Sears. They look like nuts. They almost look like not taps. They look like dies. And they show a picture of a bicycle, and the nut is stuck on the bicycle. And you use one of these things on the nut. When the nut gets rounded over, this thing grabs it. Now you put your pliers on these things. They give you like 5 of them. And I'm like, "That's what you use, some penetrating oil and a vice grip." And the guy kind of laughed. He says, "That's how they get rounded over, with the vice grips." I said, "Well, it's not the vice grips. It's not knowing how to use the vice grips and not putting penetrating oil on the nut or a little heat." I said, but this was a collectible. It's in the original package. Several people asked him. He had a price tag of $25 on there, and I think he looked it up online. It's something nobody would buy, and it's probably, if you want a complete Sears set of tools in the packages, that's the thing. And one guy did come up, and he kept trying to get it for $5, and the guy stood tall because the neighbor said, "Oh, might come back over for this later on," this younger kid. But you buy it for the packaging and the uniqueness of the tool. No one's going to ever buy that thing. Well, this guy did, but it's for removing nuts from bicycles. So I'm like, "Oh, penetrating oil." Whenever I got to remove a nut, I put penetrating oil on it first. before I even start. And then the old radios, penetrating oil, and I have that heat station now. I can blow hot air on it. I blow hot air on that aluminum nut, aluminum dial knob on the set screw, and I know I get the difference in temperature. Then I drop some penetrating oil on. Then I wait a couple hours, and then I hit it with the Bristol tools. Remember, a lot of your better shortwave radios, they don't use Allen keys. And you will get ones that are stripped out because the person didn't realize it's a spline Bristol, not an Allen key. I think that's it. All right, that's it.